Well, our question this evening is, what do you think the Department of Small Business Development can do to improve the township economy? And of course, we're taking your WhatsApps on that one, 072 110 5584, and taking your calls as well. We will have that number up on the screen as well if you'd like to share your thoughts on that one. But Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams joins us in studio on this conversation. A good evening to you, Minister, and thank you so much for joining us. I can just imagine that over the past few weeks, there have been so many calls for, some explanation as to what the role of small businesses really is in the mix of this big Spaza shop saga. And then you hear those individuals in that package saying 21 days is not going to be enough. And then there needs to be clarification as to where we register. Is it with your department?
Well, let me explain. But firstly, thank you for having me, Naledi, on your program. Let me explain, as the President has articulated, and this I've said several times in the different media houses, the responsibility to register small businesses lies with the municipalities. Now the Minister of COGTA, building from the work that we did in the 6th administration, gazetted the final draft bylaws, which guide the municipalities on how to legislate in terms of the township economy, which talks to the Spaza shops, the hair salon, and all the other businesses that are found in that space. And then he gives clear guidance on what must be done, which is the next level now is for the municipalities in terms of the councils to adopt those guidelines, and then they become the bylaws of the municipality. Now, the President has announced and addressed the country, and amongst his issues that he raised there is the fact that we are giving 21 days for people that are occupying that space. Well, now everybody's focusing on the Spaza shops, but we mean all businesses that are in the area to go and register with the municipalities. Why we believe it is important that businesses must register is because we should be able, Naledi, to know who is selling what and what are the sources of where this person gets their supplies from. As things stand, we can't account for that as government. Again, it is because of the weaknesses, as I had explained in the previous interviews, the weaknesses that we have in the system in terms of the capabilities of the municipalities. And this is what has made the national government to come together to say, let's make sure that we come with a multidisciplinary intervention, bring all the relevant departments, the Department of Health, because if you're going to be talking about food and everything, that legislation is administered by the Department of Health. But if you talk about inspections, that responsibility lies with the district municipalities as per the National Health Act. If you're going to say you are looking at the issue of foreigners that are trading, you need the Department of Home Affairs with their immigration inspectors. Then a municipality to come and check if these people are registered in terms of the permits. So those 4 critical bodies are important. We come at our level and coordinate all those stakeholders to say that, like, there's net joints at national level that brings all the departments to say, let's go together, because if you send only one aspect of these departments, the others may miss on the other challenges that are faced there. Because if you're a health inspector, you are only looking on health-related matters. That's why now we said, everybody, let's make sure that we do the work jointly so that we can pick up on those challenges. Now the 21 days comes because it is critical that we respond to the challenges that we are faced with. We've had engagements with the food manufacturers themselves, as we have established a counterfeit task force that is made of the township economy associations and the manufacturers, because we are saying we need to know who are your distribution channels, who are your people that are wholesalers that provide the food and all the supply or the products that get to be sold to the Spaza shops and other people that are there, because the crisis that you see is not only a Spaza shop. I'm sure you've seen even with the butcheries in Cape Town, wherein people were highlighting certain things that are doing. That's why we are clear that it's not this raid or this inspectorate are not only targeting Spaza shops, but they're targeting everybody who has a food handling process wherever they are. 21 days, we believe it is sufficient, because we know that South Africans have their own document. Anybody that is trading, you know your identity document, you know your proof of residential address and where you are doing business. And I'm certain that if you are leasing somebody's space, you have your lease agreement. And that's all we are asking for. Go and register. in your municipality so that we can assist by making sure that those that are not compliant as South African-owned businesses, we then get into the space as the department, working with the Department of DTIC, CEDA and the municipalities to say, let us help those that are non-compliant from the South African-owned businesses.
Yeah.
Now, the burning issue that I see people talking about, people wanted president to say foreigners cannot own Spaza shops. The constitution of this country, unfortunately, the constitution that people celebrate, the constitution that was adopted by majority, does not allow that. It talks to everyone having a right to trade, but it does give us an enabling environment where it says, but those can be regulated, which is what we are doing. When we issue the draft bylaws, they are giving authority to the municipalities to be able to set quotas. But that does not take away the fact that they, in the Immigration Act, Section 15 of the Immigration Act, is very clear on who can trade, who is a non-South African. The Immigration Act, as things stand, between the Department of Home Affairs and DTIC, the determination is that non-South Africans can only be able to trade in South Africa if they invest a minimum of 5 million rands. Now, if the president says everybody has to be compliant, it means if you are going as a non-South African, there's your documentation that gives you the right to be here and the documentation that gives you the right to trade. So it's not like you're going to come because you are a South African, you don't bring the documents, or you're a non-South African, you can do. So all of these things that people are worried about, they are going to be addressed because those people that have the right to trade will be the people that will trade.
Yeah. And I think that's important, clarity, Minister, because there has been so many questions from communities saying, how are we allowing foreign-owned shops? And those thresholds, very important to note. You quoted previously, just a few weeks ago, in fact, and you've touched on this issue. I want to elaborate on it. Spaza shops source food from distributors and food manufacturers. They don't produce the food. A lot of the contention in communities is that Spaza shop is selling food that is dangerous. Talk to me about what we're doing then to regulate the distributors. And are there distributors, as you talk about foreign national-owned shops and Spaza shops in our communities that must meet certain thresholds? What do those look like for distributors? What's the problem looking like in terms of those that fall through the cracks, Minister?
Well, as things stand, no one has reported that there's any of the distribution centers that have been found to not to be compliant. We are hoping that in these 21 days, as the teams will be doing the inspections, then they will be able to cover up, to come up with anything that they would have met. Right now, the crisis that has been faced is the one that has led to the outbreak from the Spaza shops. But we said in the inspections, let's not only target Spaza shop, as you correctly say. Spaza shops, they source food from somewhere. So we ought to go to get to the bottom of it. Who is at the wrong? Is it the manufacturer? Is it on the process of packaging, whatever products they bought, or is there at the Spaza shop themselves? Because you heard that this is a chemical that has been discovered by the Department of Health. Now, the chemical means that because they say that this chemical is used when people have rats, and according to the laws of this country, it is not supposed to be used in the households, which means if we get into your space, whether you are a distributor, a wholesaler, or a Spaza shop, you are not supposed to have a chemical that you're not licensed to have. Minister Steenhuisen said there's 5 manufacturers. Even themselves, they're going to be checked. If they are compliant with everything, who did they sell to? Because this is putting people's lives at risk. That's why the joint operations is important to look at all the aspects, not only target the Spaza shops, but everyone who is involved, including educating consumers and those that are leasing space to non-South Africans. The Immigration Act, again, on Section 42, is very clear of the role of South Africans in this country, what they can do and what they can't do. They cannot aid non-South Africans, whether it's about space, whatever that you give them, assist them with anything, if they are not here legally and not eligible to access the products. So we're not only looking at foreign nationals, we're also looking at citizens to say, you have a right, you have a responsibility to protect our environment and adhere by our legislations, because we are saying people must be here, they must get a business visa. Have you checked the person that is renting in your space if this person indeed has the business visa?
Yeah.
So it's a two-way process for us.
And here's another issue, is that when we talk about businesses that are representing South Africans, South African-owned businesses in the townships, they need to be capacitated, right? The president announcing this 500 million rand to upgrade Spaza shops. You've got Build One South Africa saying they want to know where the money comes from. But talk to us about that, what that intends to do.
It just shows, I'm sure that Build One decided to focus on that because it means they don't pay attention to what government is doing. Because the program that we have, for example, both departments of DTIC and the Department of Small Business Development, they are running programs on township economy revitalization. We said now add the rural part, because it's township and rural economy revitalization.
Yeah.
The department on its own spends 900 million rands every year in order to empower township-owned businesses, focusing on the support that they need, and the support goes up to 1 million rands. You may have seen me going around handing over equipment to entrepreneurs, and that's part of that program through Asset Assist. Now, what we did was to say, because this is a crisis and we need to assist South African-owned businesses that may not be compliant so that they don't stay out of business, because we must assist them with compliance first. Compliance, we do appreciate that it is expensive. That is why we said we must step in. We've brought in SARS and other people to say, let's come up with solutions that can assist our people to be able to be compliant, because we understand that others are not compliant because they can't afford to pay for certain things, including shelving and all those things that are required for you to run a Spaza shop or a convenience shop. We're going to be assisting them with those because we want them to stay in business, because we have a responsibility to develop township businesses. Now the 500 million comes from DTIC, 350 million rands, and 150 million from our side. As I said, we are running programs already, but we just pulled in these resources to say this is a crisis that we must respond to so that we can immediately attend to the ones that are in need.
Because when you do one thing on the left, and that is dealing with illegally foreign-owned stores, you need to be able to create capacity for those that are owned by South Africans. And in fact, it's the question that we're asking our viewers this evening, asking for your comments via WhatsApp. The number is 072 110 5584. We asked people what they would like, particularly from your department, to develop township economies. Those WhatsApps have been sent to us. Let's read some of them now. Tammy Majozi in Deep Kloof says, township economy must be exclusively reserved for South Africans. Make laws that will protect these small businesses for South Africans. And that way, township economy will be protected, right? Another SMS from Harrison in Clayville, Tembisa, that says small business development must get rid of illegally foreign Spaza shops from South Africa so our people can own them, not to mention that the fact that they killed our children and continue to do so. Jabulani in Bilabela says, to improve the township economy, the foreigners taught us that there is business in South Africa. Therefore, the solution is to stop the current number of registered foreigners and not to register them anymore, and empower our people here and support them because foreigners have a backup. Anonymous says, evening Naledi, I think the small business department must assist locals with startup capital and skills to run a business and monitor them. All right. Comments saying you've got a lot to do, Minister, a lot on your plate because businesses really want to be upscaled. And so you are also running the National Presidential MSME and Cooperative Awards. Talk to us about those.
Well, this is a concept that we started in 2022 because we believe that entrepreneurs ought to be recognized. And we're not doing that because we're doing favors, but we are saying there's lots of work and struggles that entrepreneurs go through, but they bring difference in our country in terms of the economy. They innovate, they introduce new products, they create jobs for others. So we have to recognize those, including recognizing those that are in the ecosystem that support entrepreneurs. You hear entrepreneurs complaining that there's no enough funding, but there are organizations that are providing funding or others providing business development support. So we are saying those that at least are doing something, let them be recognized. So we are here to celebrate them on Friday, the 22nd at Galaga. And of course, they get different prizes. The process started with the regions. They contested at the regional level where they did the pitching against their peers. Then they went to the provincial pitches. Now they're at national to be awarded by the president, those that have made the difference and won the day.
And these are township businesses and rural businesses.
Township and rural, that's where our focus is.
Talk to us about the categories, because this is very interesting where we're saying, okay, well, not only is it an opportunity for you to be seen as a business, but you're also going to be resourced.
There are SMME awards that is targeting the best SMME in terms of the youth-owned SMME, women-led SMME that is making a difference, because we get your community where you are operating to have a say and make an input to say, how are you contributing socially and otherwise to the community? So it's women-owned, it's the best SMME of the year, it's the Life Achiever Award that recognizes people that have been there, because one of the things that we're lacking in South Africa are mentors to mentor the upcoming guys, that when the business is not going well, somebody must hold their hands and say, hold on, just take this route now. Just know that this is going to happen, but you're going to come up again. You will be safe tomorrow. So we are also looking at those that have been around, that have made their mark, and we are recognizing their work because they are really helping in terms of increasing the lifeline of the entrepreneurs of our
You've
country.
got a Spaza shop in a community, let's say Tembisa, for instance, and many of them, you know, we grew up seeing them, and then later on, they just don't survive, right? So how are we dealing with sustainability? Quite often what you see in these communities is that Spaza shop that you grew up seeing in your community later on becomes a foreign-owned store because these businesses aren't able to sustain themselves. And the business model is, well, let's rent it out to this foreign national. So something says we need to deal with the sustainability of our small businesses.
Well, the first thing when you're looking at sustainability is pre-investment support, which means the capability of running the business. Because when you are running, whether it's a Spaza shop or a salon, that is business. That's the first thing that you need to get support on, which is training that we provide. And of course, when you have received the support, then you must get post-investment support. How do you stay in business? But for you to stay in business, we need South Africans to come up and really show up for the entrepreneurs. Because it is South Africans that abandon the Spaza shops and go and buy. Of course, they will cite the issue of prices, which is what you are looking at in terms of trying to step in and be able to negotiate for bulk buying for our Spaza shops or small businesses, so that they can also get some discounts. Because if they buy in bulks, like the other guys do, then they're able to negotiate discount. That's why we are sitting with the food manufacturers, the likes of Obotek brands or Unilever, the independent groupings. So to say, let us make sure that the product can be found at least a reasonable price so that our people can stay in business. But again, that takes discipline of the people that must buy and of the people that are running their businesses. So we do urge and appeal to all South Africans to support all our township and rural businesses, because they will not survive no matter how much money we put. But if there are no people to consume the products, to buy from them, then they will not survive. That's why the third aspect after post-investment is access to market. So we sit with big businesses. As I said, we're working with an entire ecosystem. We then negotiate for them to be able to put the products in their shelves. Because those that are producing, because there's lots of innovative South Africans, especially in the food industry, they've produced spices, sauces, and all of that. So we negotiate markets, access to markets with the big retailers, just like we take them outside the country. You have others that now have been to Atlanta and other countries, and their products are being sourced. So that talks to sustainability. But the critical part to sustain a business is for South Africans to invest in their own businesses. Support your businesses, whether they're making clothes, whether they're doing makeup, whether they sell food. Ours, from our side as government, as I said, we are trying our best. We've even now passed the policy by Cabinet to establish the fund of funds that seek to complement the credit gap that is there. Because we all agree that there is not enough or sufficient funding that goes to small businesses. So we've established, we are in a process of establishing that fund of funds together with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and National Treasury. It will increase, therefore, the pool of funding to the businesses. But there are challenges, we know. Our people are not able to access finances. The banks put all these regulations that are there, which is why through the same policy, the funding policy for MSMEs and cooperatives, again, we said there's a need to review what is it that the banks require or the non-banking institutions that provide financing.
From these businesses.
Yes, to establish a movable collateral registry. And we are busy with workshops now with the National Treasury to say, what are the other items that can be added so that the bank does not only say, do you have a car? Do you have a house? And what if I have stock? I'm running a shop here. I have stock. I have all these clothes there worth 10,000 rands. Yeah. Therefore, can't you borrow me money so that I can do this today? Because I know at the end of the month I'm going to get my money back and I'll be able to pay you. So we are looking at those. What are the other items that the banking institutions and the non-banking institutions that provide finance can include in the registry so that it increases access to financing for the small businesses of our country.
Okay, well, we've got a caller, Mandy, calling in from Katlehong. Mandy, a good evening to you. Thanks for calling in. What's your question or comment?
Okay. I've been listening to the minister, and she has mentioned each and every rules and regulations when it comes to South African laws. Why are we still discussing this? 21 days is enough. If you are not registered within the 21 days, you should be prosecuted. Only if you are illegally and you don't have you are not permitted to be here in South Africa. I think the minister has said all the things that are supposed to happen. However, let us also be aware that should the police or the Abantu not really do what they're supposed to do, South Africans are very angry. I'm sure you've also seen in Soweto that illegal foreigners have been stopped to go and register because people are tired. Let us be very aware of how we are dealing with the situations and how fast are we with helping citizens, because we are complaining because we've had enough. I am telling you, can you guys see how now these, I'm sorry to say this, can you see how illegal foreigners are actually reacting to what the president of the country has said? They are telling us in our own country that our president must give them time.
Yeah, Mendy, strong points there that have been raised. Thank you so much for calling in. So, Mendy, in agreement with the initiative by the president here. And he talks about the anger of South Africans, something that is very, very palpable, Minister.
Yes, we are saddened that the situation is where it is, and we really understand where our people are coming from. Because indeed, if we then lose lives over this matter, it means it is a very serious matter that needs to be considered. And this is why the president took an action. That's why he called for everyone to come and take action. All of us from all the spheres of government, we are trying to work together. But we're also calling upon South Africans, where they see that we have not done what we're supposed to do, they must report that. The National Consumer Commission had issued their number. It's a pity now I don't know it by head, but they have issued a number to say, if you find anything that is fishy or suspicious, do report so that we can send our teams there. So everyone in government who has a role to play in this, they are hands on deck to make sure that we deal with all the illegalities, irrespective of who, because we don't know if we don't have South Africans that are manufacturing illegally.
Yeah. Well, we've got a caller on the line. This is our last one for the evening. Sbusiso in Lenasia. Sbusiso, good evening to you. What are your thoughts?
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, sir. Thanks for calling in. What do you think?
Because kids have died and no arrests have been made. People are concentrating on getting the Spaza shops registered, but no arrests have been made.
Yeah. So accountability is necessary, and I think that's a very important point. Yeah. And you know, Sbusiso, just last night we spoke to the family members of 2 children that died in Naledi weeks ago, and the family saying they want an update, they want to see arrests, and they need to see justice.
Not registration of Spaza shops.
Yeah.
We want justice first. First thing is first.
All right, thank you so much for that, Sbusi. So here's the challenge, right? And you talked about all the other ministries that need to play their part. Do we have the right sort of integration of our various departments to deal with all of these elements?
We do. Hence, I said we have established the net joints, wherein you find the justice, your police, your defense, your correctional services, the Department of Justice. They're working with the other departments and state security in order to make sure that where there's a need for law enforcement, the law is enforced. So even on these matters that people are saying there has been no arrest, I know that with the Naledi issue, when it started, the Naledi case, people were arrested, they had to be released because then there was still investigation if indeed, when you said it is Stella that has committed this, is there evidence? And then that's when it was discovered that actually this comes from a chemical. Then the Department of Health had to go and do some research, again in the laboratories, and then they came with the feedback. The police are on this case. We've seen Minister Mkhunu crisscrossing the country. We've seen his generals. They are working, making sure that indeed those that will be found against the law, they will be held liable. Okay. South Africans, I know we've taken too long, but we are committing. This is something that we are committed to do.
Yeah, Minister, one thing is for sure, you can hear, I mean, 2 callers saying this is an issue that makes people angry, right? It's an emotive issue, so all action is necessary. But in the meantime, though, the Department of Small Business Development holding these awards on the 22nd of November from 5 o'clock. At the Gallagher Convention Centre. We're in there rewarding and also capacitating small businesses in townships as well as in rural areas. Minister, it's been a pleasure having you in studio with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, keep the WhatsApps coming in. 072-110-5584. Your thoughts on the discussion, and of course, your thoughts continually coming in on really what we need to be doing to really keep supporting the township economy.